Mary Nixon is the manager of the Michigan Growth Capital Symposium, and she's also the marketing program manager for the University of Michigan Zell-Lurie Institute. The Zell-Lurie Institute has been a great supporter of GLEQ for our entire history, and Mary will be presenting the MGCS presentation slot to GLEQ's top emerging company winner. Before presenting the awards this evening, I'd like to announce some exciting developments for GLEQ and our business plan competition. We will be launching the next cycle of the competition on Monday, February 6th. And if you're interested in participating, I have good news for you. We will match you with a business coach, and that coach will work with you for several months, and no documents are due until May. So you do not have to have your business plan or executive summary ready at this time. So you have plenty of time to work with your coach. The GLEQ Awards will be presented on June 12th. That's a Tuesday. And we will be presenting them again on campus at MSU at the James B. Henry Center. I think this will be our 5th year presenting awards there. Other good news I have is that we will have the 3rd annual Smart Zone Award this year. That's the $100,000 award that is sponsored by our Michigan Network of Smart Zones, and it's funded through the Michigan Pre-Seed Capital Fund. Many of you know that as the fund that Skip Sims manages out of Ann Arbor Spark. I'm also very thrilled to announce that we have a new Innovation Award that is being sponsored by the Global Food Protection Institute, and that award will be $10,000 in June. And the Global Food Protection Institute is trying to increase awareness of this important new industry and the Institute's ability to award seed funding for Michigan ventures that are involved in food protection and food safety. One other announcement I'd like to make is that we are pleased that we will be entering an exciting collaboration with Michigan State University. We are working with Forrest Carter, Associate Professor of Marketing at the Eli Broad College, and GLEQ will be adding a track for the MSU competition in this spring cycle. And in fact, we have some winners here from the MSU competition, which was just judged last week. And one of the judges was Jack Ahrens from GLEQ. And so I'd like the winners, if you're here, to stand up. We know you're here somewhere, but you might be out in the exhibit hall. We have the first place winner was Through IM, Andrew Pung and Darren Gross. They are developing an app that allows text messaging between individuals and businesses. Are the Through IM folks here? Congratulations on your win up there in Lansing. And the second place winner was Down to the Bone, which is a natural food-based skin lotion and personal care products company. And the third place winner was Digital Bridge, which is a social media marketing company. So a round of applause for our MSU students. And now it's my pleasure to award 2 different awards. And I'm going to ask tonight, so that we can move through things very quickly, that as you are awarded, after your award is announced, or as it's being announced, please come up to the stage. We'll present you with your award, and please stay on the stage. And then when all the awards are done, we will exit this way and go have some pictures taken. So the 2 awards that I will be presenting are the GLEQ Coach Award and the Spirit of Entrepreneurship Award. Before I announce the Coach Award, though, because we have so many fabulous people that are working as volunteer coaches for GLEQ, I would like my GLEQ coaches in the audience to please stand so we can recognize you for all your volunteer efforts. Thank you. Our choice for the GLEQ Coach The next award that I'm going to present is our Spirit of Entrepreneurship Award. And this award acknowledges the entrepreneurs that have the personality, attitude, and fortitude that exemplify what it takes to be an entrepreneur. And this year's winner is Jessica Tompkins. She was selected as our Spirit of Entrepreneurship Award winner. Her coach, Nancy Mathias, recommended Jessica and noted that she welcomed different perspectives. She always followed through, she was diligent, and she cared deeply about serving her customers. Receiving this award for Jessica is the chair of the GLEQ Coaches Council, Kevin Saboski. And the reason why he's doing this is because Jessica's company, Two Bows, is in the Upper Peninsula. They are an Iron Mountain-based e-commerce apparel line offering women's hunting clothes. So, Kevin. Okay. Sam.
Thanks, Diane. I knew Diane would rope me into speaking here tonight because it's a pretty special day, as she mentioned. 3 years ago, I was fortunate enough to be on the receiving end of this check with a company called Giftsip.com, which was kind of a harebrained idea to do a virtual gift card kiosk that, as she said, I was fortunate enough over the next 2.5 years to be able to grow it and make it valuable for someone else. So we've had many brainstorming sessions since then. She's very good at bringing it back, and I'm on the GLEQ board. But one of the things she's asked is, what was the meaning of that award that night? And clearly, it wasn't, the couple $1,000 because in the grand scheme of things, that's pretty minuscule in what it takes to grow a company. But what it was the affirmation in the mind of a 25-year-old kid that this idea in his head might not be all that harebrained after all. We did a little deeper dive into past winners, and we looked at some other not so harebrained ideas, ones that you've all heard of: Accuray cytometers, adaptive materials, and A123 systems. We determined that the changing factor in what it takes to be successful is to enter the GLEQ competition and start your name with the letter A. Apparently the judges in a alphabetic grading system get bored, but who knows? All kidding aside, these successes and others are further proof that this entrepreneurial experiment in Michigan is anything but an experiment. These are real successes, these are real dollars, these are real returns for investors. But this community is no accident, and actually it's been catalyzed by amazing organizations like GLEQ and others. An extremely committed Michigan Economic Development Corporation, which really makes a lot of this possible, and two wonderfully supportive governors over the last decade. But the work is not done; it never is. These wonderful organizations and the momentum they've started needs to be backfilled. It needs to be backfilled by those who have benefited from these successes. And if you are an entrepreneur whose company's done well because you've been involved in these programs, an investor whose deal flow is derived from them, or a corporation whose growth strategy often relies on acquiring these homegrown Michigan companies, we'd like to hear from you. We need to hear from you to recycle your time, to recycle your resources, and most importantly, to recycle your talents, to keep new business ideas churning like the three I'm about to announce. So the three new business idea winners. In third place for $1,000, Menlo Park Software, LLC. Represented by founder and CEO, you can come up after I state your name. Represented by founder and CEO Richard Bollinger, Menlo Park Software has developed a software tool for traditional project managers to help them with collaboration, managing unscheduled work and producing project reports. This software as a service program allows for the collaboration needed for agile projects and then leverages it to produce traditional reports and meet the needs of team participants. Congratulations. Our second place award for $1,500, IGA LLC. Represented by co-founders Scott Hammerink and Kevin Denholm, Rochester Hill-based IGA offers a software platform that rewards healthy behaviors and adherence to health-related treatment plans. The interactive technology platform improves patient health and the bottom line of companies through education, effective tools, personalized programs, and engaging challenges that encourage and reinforce positive behaviors and product usage. Congratulations, guys. In the first place award in the New Business Idea category for $2,000 to SirClean Inc. Represented by CEO Susan Sprenthal, Wixom-based SirClean has developed handheld laser-based products to replace chemical, media blasting, and abrasives for removing coatings. This system uses a laser beam to disintegrate paint and rust from substrate in a cost-effective, safe, energy-efficient, and earth-friendly way. SirClean removes safety concerns, environmental issues, and hazards associated with the control and use of chemicals, as well as the disposal of contaminated waste product. Congratulations. I'd now like to welcome to the podium GLEQ Board Chairman Jack Ahrens for the...
Thanks, Sam. Well, I want to first off start out in thanking my co-chairs for the judging, Tom Edwards and Raymond Lenio, neither of which are able to be here tonight, but they both put in a lot of time helping me review these plans and get all the judges organized. We had about 80 judges this year reviewing the plans from VC firms, investment bankers, private equity, regular banking, the SPTDC, lawyers, and consultants. So there's been a good variety, and I hope that as entrepreneurs you appreciate a lot of the comments and stuff that they've tried to write down, and you'll be able to have access to those tomorrow, I think?
Yes.
Yeah. So we try to encourage our judges to write comments. You should keep in mind that we feel you probably learn more from mistakes, so the comments may be negative, but it's to try to help you and tell you what you did wrong so you can fix it for the next phase of the business plan competition. So in the EC category, which is the emerging company category, the later stage businesses, third place this year, which is a $2,000 award, goes to Gantech Inc. With Rick Olson and Jonathan Hampton. Gantech is a natural products biotech company based in Midland. They produce and deliver safe, effective, and natural plant extracts and solid formulations that allow customers to improve plant yield, lower overall costs. Great. Great, congratulations. Second place for $3,000 is a company called Phenometrics. CEO, I bet you can't tell who that runs that company. Run by Mimi Hall. Phenometrics is a scientific instrumentation company that provides innovative research and development measurement tools for algae and plant sciences industries. Mimi, congratulations. And for number one, first place for $5,000, Biophotonic Solutions. And Dr. Marco Stantos, founder and president and CEO. Biophotonic Solutions is an innovative laser tech company known as ultra-fast lasers with applications in a number of areas including biometrical imaging, corrective laser eye surgery, and mass spectrometry. Congratulations. Those are our three EC winners.
On behalf of the Zeller Institute for Entrepreneurial Studies at the Ross School of Business, I would like to extend my congratulations to tonight's emerging company winner, who has earned a presenting company slot at this year's Michigan Growth Capital Symposium, which will be held May 15th and 16th. The symposium will host about 40 companies, and it's hosting companies seeking $500,000 to $20 million in funding. The event attracts investors from across the U.S., primarily in the Midwest, and also known investors from both of our coasts. So if you're able to, we hope you can join us there. And congratulations.
Okay, if I can ask our winners to kind of hold still there for 1 second, and then we'll exit out over here so we can take just a couple more pictures. Now I'm very happy and pleased to be able to turn over the podium to my ACE co-chair, Grace Lee.
Welcome to ACE12. I'm Grace Lee from MIT Enterprise Forum, the Great Lakes chapter, and the CFO of Logic Solutions, which was a startup in this great city of Ann Arbor 16 years ago. I'm wearing a different hat tonight as the co-chair for ACE12. ACE started in 2001 as a collaboration event between NEF and MIT Enterprise Forum, with 75 attendants in the first year. In the 12 years period, ACE has become one of the most important entrepreneurial events for the region. Tonight, there are 15 organizations collaborating together, and we are expecting approximately 1,000 people attending tonight's event. We would like to thank our sponsors. Even though at today's economic challenging time, they see the values of ACE, where we bring all the entrepreneurs together in one place to connect, to learn, and to network together. We will not be able to have tonight's event without their support. All of our sponsors have their are listed in the pamphlet, and many of them has information table outside. Please stop by, talk to them, and see what they can do for you. And the programs will not be successful without the fantastic speakers, the judges, and the panelists. We would like to thank them for their taking their time and sharing their experience and wisdom with us tonight. I would also like to thank our volunteer planning committees, which put in countless hours to make tonight's program successful. This is my 10th year on the ACE Planning Committee. And every year, I'm amazed by the passion and dedication of all the volunteers. They are always in tune with what entrepreneurs want and have great innovation ideas to make ACE better every year. I would like to thank and recognize their dedication. For the NEF Great Lakes Entrepreneur Quest, well, she's not here, my co-chair, Diane Dorrance. From Ann Arbor Spark, Mary Kay Edinburgh. From Automation Alley, Kelly Kozłowski. From the Michigan Small Business and Technology Development Center, Charlie Penner. From the University of Michigan, Amy Klink and Wayne Harvey. From Techtown, Allison William. From Michigan State University, Ruben Dederian. From Davenport University, Danielle DeLong. From Lansing Area Partnership, Mish Subaski. From MEDC, Zachariah Shea. From Grand Valley State University, Kevin McCurran and Shrag Alama. From Eiler Communications, Larry Eiler. From Import, Mike Brooks. And tonight we would also like to thank Ann Arbor Skyline High School, who opened their door and host the event for the 3rd year. The team includes Principal Jackson and the District Executive Director of Physical Properties, Randy Trent. But however, just like any successful business, we can have great ideas, funding, and excellent management team. But the business will not be successful without customers. So on behalf of the ACE Planning Committee, I would like to thank everyone who attended our event tonight. Thank you for your support. Now with the program, I would like to introduce our first speakers and our sponsor, Martin Dover, from the Senior Vice President and the Entrepreneurship and Innovation at Michigan Economic Development Corporation. Mr. Dover will update MEDC's new programs in 2011 and the vision for 2012.
Good evening, everyone. So it was, well, first of all, let me start off by, again, echoing Grace's comments and thanking all of the partners and organizations involved in putting together this great event that has occurred over many, many years and surely has generated a significant amount of economic impact in the state of Michigan. So thanks again to all the partners involved. Fantastic event. Thank you. So it was at this time, actually, almost exactly a year ago, that I came into this new position at the MEDC, running the various entrepreneurship programs we have. And I remember at this very event a year ago, my boss, Mike Finney, spoke to the audience, and actually during his presentation, he called me out in the audience in front of everyone. I was about a week or two on the job. And so I won't say it as eloquently as he speaks, but he basically said that if you're looking for money, go see the bald guy sitting over there. And fortunate for me, as I've told all my colleagues at MEDC, there are lots of bald guys in the audience and I see there's some here tonight too. So it's really good. And I feel, but very esteemed to have been given the honor to serve the MEDC and be involved in launching a number of new entrepreneurship programs for the state. Over the past year, we've launched and put forward through the state's 21st Century Jobs Fund, specifically for entrepreneurship areas and supporting high-tech businesses and other types of companies. We've launched about $40 million worth of programs around the state. Now, this isn't all money for entrepreneurs. Some of it is. But it's also, for the majority of it, it's been used to really help fund the entrepreneurial infrastructure in Michigan and supporting a lot of different organizations and a lot of our partners that support entrepreneurs in the state. Partners like the SBTDC, like the Business Bioconsultants, like our Great Lakes Entrepreneurs Quest and Accelerate Michigan Innovation Competition, 2 business plan competitions. It's also put a lot of funding into early stage capital efforts for entrepreneurs. We funded the Emerging Technologies Fund, which is administered by the SBTDC and provides grants for companies that receive federal SBIR awards, both Phase 1 and Phase 2, a great program. We've also put additional funding into the Michigan Pre-Seed Fund to support entrepreneurs up to $250,000, matching private investment. We funded organization through Spark, the new Michigan Angel Fund, and some programs through the Michigan Venture Capital Association, all geared at really providing early stage capital for entrepreneurs. And you go beyond that, and some of the other programs that we've had with the MEDC to support entrepreneurship through our universities and really partnering with them to connect companies with the resources at universities, both in spinning out technology, but also engaging the resources of universities to help build businesses. Beyond that, we've invested in our incubators around the state, and in December, we announced awards of $6 million to support 13 incubators across the state, really nurturing companies across the entire state. So again, $40 million investing in programs and really investing in Michigan entrepreneurs. And while all that capital may not go directly to entrepreneurs, it's helping to grow businesses here and really good programs that we funded. When you also look at the other programs administered by the many different individuals at MEDC, we've launched another number of other exciting programs that support entrepreneurs. In our talent group, we've got programs such as the Shifting Gears program and Shifting Code program. We have in our capital services team a lot of new programs, including administering the State Small Business Credit Initiative that provides much needed loans for businesses and can really help them out that way. So there's a variety of programs that have been launched. I invite you to, if you're interested in any of them, to look at our website, michiganadvantage.org, or feel free to send me an email at martin@michigan.org, and I'd be happy to connect you with anyone at MEDC can help, because we're really trying to assist businesses as we can and be a resource to help you grow in Michigan. So thank you for having me here tonight, and I appreciate the honor of presenting to you. And again, this is a great competition and through Great Lakes Entrepreneurs Quest and a great event in ACE. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dover. Next is our showcase presentation. Larry Eiler from the ACE Planning Committee and the President and CEO of the Eiler Communication will introduce the presenters for the showcase. Please welcome Mr. Eiler.
Celebrate this. It's my distinct pleasure tonight to introduce three seasoned entrepreneurs who have had a lot of successes. They're going to talk about leadership and how to build leadership, but they've also had a lot of failures because you learn when you're an entrepreneur from failing, and that's not bad. We need to learn to think that we don't have to succeed with everything we do. First is Kalyan Handik, now CEO of De Novo Sciences. De Novo is a cancer diagnostics startup that most recently won the grand prize for the 2011 Accelerate Michigan Innovation Competition. The De Novo team is here tonight. We welcome them. Earlier, Kalyan founded and was CTO of HandyLab, a molecular diagnostics firm that was sold to Becton Dickinson in 2009 for $275 million. The next to speak will be Dan Arbour. He's a carve-out entrepreneur. That means he was a VP of sales for ProQuest for a number of years, and he saw some businesses that he and his associates who founded his firm liked, and they publishing company and Xanadu, and they ran them for several years. And now Dan and some partners have formed Apogee Insights to bring their expertise to the market as consulting partners. Leading the group of three is Fritz Seiferth, who formed Fritz Seiferth and Associates 12 years ago and has developed the Foundation of Winning program based on as a management team leading a business. Fritz ran the operations for the Michigan Athletic Department for 12 years and the football program for 9 years, and he earlier played football. Fritz?
Thank you, Larry. We'll move these chairs out here so you can see us a little bit better. Let me share with you that when I came to work at Michigan for Bo, I came out of New York City with a great understanding of what I thought made success possible, but I learned a great deal under Bo Schembechler. The first 9 years, I was responsible for recruiting athletes to the University of Michigan. And if you want to create meaningful, enduring success, I was responsible for talent, skill, and knowledge. But I found that Bo Schembechler spent a lot of time figuring out who fit. What does fit look like in the organization? And that's what I'm going to share with you is something that wasn't talked about at that time and has taken on a lot of interest in the last 20 years. But in 1979, nobody was talking about what makes great organizations great. What makes them great is this. We have 3 principles of mankind, and you're going to hear from Kalyan and Dan talk about how these 3 principles impacted them in building of their companies. The first is vision. What is it that you're trying to accomplish? The openness that you have to achieving that goal, the growth, the learning, the fact that that information can come from anywhere to help you realize your vision of what you want to try to accomplish. Happiness, there's 4 levels, but let's break it down into 2. Either you have a purpose that is in service of others, or you have a purpose that's in service of yourself. Either you hire people that are in service of others, or you hire people that are in service of themselves. And let me share with you, it's a lot easier, it goes more organically, and it goes faster if you are in service of other people. and Dan and Kellyanne will speak to that. And then boundaries. Boundaries has to do with the fact that as a leader, there's inbounds and out-of-bounds behavior and conduct and decision-making in your organization, and you need to have the right people. There are people that you've hired that have had great talent, skill and knowledge, but they didn't work out for you because they didn't understand the concept of boundaries in service of the organization. There's four principles, disciplines required. One is our identity that is made up of our purpose for being, our vision for what we want to become, and the values we use for decision making, all built off the principles. Right people have an alignment on purpose, vision, and values. Team is an assessment that the better you work together and collaborate, things just go better. But the most important of all is the reinforcing systems you use. And the financial industry and the mortgage industry is a great example how we rewarded people for doing the wrong thing that hurt the stockholders, the client, and the country because we rewarded people for doing the wrong thing. So with that, we'll kick it off with Dan. Do you want to head out?
Sure.
And share us your story and how your success came about.
Thank you, Fritz. It's interesting, when I was at ProQuest, my story is I was in a three-stage process of selling one business inside of ProQuest, and at that time it was called ProQuest Information and Learning. For those of you around Ann Arbor for a long time, this company would be known as UMI, and Joe Fitzsimmons headed up that company for many years. In these meetings, we were essentially looking at divesting of a very popular but long-standing product, and many of you may know of it from your library days, a microfilm division. It was the periodicals and microfilm program. And I actually sat in on the presentations, and we're selling these businesses to outside financial advisors. And at one point in the presentation, I finally said to myself, I said, this is something that I should do. This is something that I could put a team together, because all the financial people wanted to know is how it was declining, because this business was declining. How was it declining and how it could be reversed? Well, it didn't take an Einstein to figure out that the microfilm business as it existed in the 1950s and the 1960s and the 1980s and up to the year 2005 when I acquired it was not going to get bigger. So I, in essence, sat down with the management team after one of these presentations and said, I will put together the group to buy this. So in essence, I got together with several of my other colleagues, and we put together a business plan, and it was the Dan Arbor Roadshow. It was walking around Ann Arbor, Michigan with a business that had $30 million of revenue and saying, will you lend me and become a partner with me? And in fact, in the first meeting that I had with the bankers, they patted me on the head and they said, go find another business. So interestingly enough, I went back to ProQuest and passed on my experience, and then we looked at the Xanadu business, which is a custom publishing business. And between the two, between a cash cow legacy business, which the microfilm was, and the addition of Xanadu, which was a custom publishing business, which had, at that point, only had 10% of its customers in electronic form. I was able to put together a cash cow concept for the business and put together a growth scenario for the business, and putting those two pieces together was ending up doing a $35 million startup. So what I learned in this process, and it very much fits with what Fritz was outlining in terms of team members and participation, are very important key elements of this whole process. The number one thing I learned as part of this process, and actually I'm duplicating that right now with Apogee Insights, my consulting firm, is pick the right team members. If you don't pick the right team members, you'll be way behind the eight ball in the beginning. I was able to select not only people from within the company, but also people outside of the industry to bring them into the organization. And with 3 other partners, I was able to acquire this business. We were able to move it forward, and I'm happy to say the businesses, and I'm still an active shareholder in each of these businesses are doing well. Actually, one of the businesses has spawned off another company that's been taken private, and an entrepreneur with Joe Mills, and he has another business that he started from this business. And the second company is still with the parent organization. And remember that business that was only doing 10% of this custom publishing? When I acquired it, it is now doing 65% of its business is in electronic form. A much different valuation and a much different success story. And I'm happy to see that the iPad app and the Android app, we never could have envisioned that in 2005, but that's the kicker that really took it over the hump. So I'm extremely happy to be with you here tonight, and any thoughts and ideas I can share on Fritz's outline of leadership, how to make it happen. But I will tell you, besides picking the #1 goal of picking the group right, the secondary thing is, as a president, as a leader, you have to believe, you have to have passion, and you have to bring it to the table every single day. Because I have been amazed, in one short story I'll finish up with, I, for whatever reason, shut my door loudly one day. And I had ripple effects through that organization that Dan Arbor was mad at somebody that day. And I literally just shut the door probably I just swung it. And I couldn't believe the impact that my demeanor would have on the organization. It's just a small example on how you have to bring it every single day if you're the leader and entrepreneur.
Great, Dan. Thank you. Kellyanne, why don't you tell your story, then we'll ask some questions.
Thank you, Fritz. Good evening, entrepreneurs and everyone else here in support for the entrepreneurs. This is a great event, and I'm happy to be here, meeting a lot of my colleagues and friends. I'll tell you about two of my experiences so far, De Novo Sciences and of course HandyLab. Right now I'm the CEO of De Novo Sciences. This is a company that was founded by a young group of entrepreneurs, Priya, Saida, and Chris. They're in the audience. And the team was, they started the company way back in 2010, and I had an opportunity to mentor them as they went through the learnings of how to figure out what to do. Okay, I'll take a step back. HandyLab was something that I started way back based on some of the research I did at my PhD thesis at University of Michigan, and I had an opportunity to take it out with my co-founder colleague Sundu Brahmasandra, and we had an exciting ride going through the commercialization of the product. And then we had a great ride. We had ups and downs, but we did it well. And there are a few things that are common between HandyLab and De Novo Sciences. And there are a few things that I'll point out. One is having a compelling, passionate, and positive vision for the company. That is the key mantle that takes you through all the hardships that you have. That's very key. Second thing, you need to have a team that shares the same purpose, that shares the same vision, passion, and have the same culture. The culture of can-do attitude, the culture of positivity, the culture of taking any challenge that comes your way and not bucking down, and having fun working together. And third one, to be open to share and to collectively learn from each other, from others, and collectively grow along with the organization. So let me step back to De Novo Sciences. So these young entrepreneurs, I mean, two of them did internship at Aspirian Therapeutics under Roger Newton. So they too decided to start the company. They have no business background. They have no idea how to go about. The only thing they shared was how they can use their knowledge and education in life science to impact humanity. They got Saida involved. Saida was a colleague of Priya at Eastern Michigan University. And that's the only thing they had. They had nothing. And everything they figured out, they hit a lot of bumps in the road. People thought they were crazy. Usually, you don't hear people starting life science companies in a garage. You need a lot of resources. But they figured out their own de novo creative ways to find out all the answers. They asked for help. They didn't mind getting ridiculed in the marketplace. Some people thought they were crazy, but there were some who saw the spark in them. And those are the ones I thank you for what you did. They were able to learn quickly about the marketplace, find a compelling need in the marketplace, and it was in cancer diagnostics. And very soon, with the help of people like the MISPTD coaches, collaborators at Carmanos and University of Michigan, they figured out a solution for what they were trying to, for the problem that they identified. And lo and behold, in June of 2011, they won the Best New Business Idea organized by GLEQ. That was the thing that made me realize, hey, these guys are onto something, and they have identified a market area that needs a solution. And the fact that they don't give up was something that was reverberated with me. I have seen things happen in HandyLab, and going back to those culture of can-do attitude, and that's what made me join the company. So I'll give you another story. Back in 2010, December, the company, they hardly had any money. I mean, they were barely surviving and getting things by. So they didn't have money to pay to get into Excellent Michigan. So they volunteered so that they can be timekeepers and mic holders and watch through hundreds of competition pitches. So they knew what investors look for. They knew what makes a compelling business plan. They knew what makes a compelling business case. So made it a goal. Next year, the Excellent Michigan 2011 grand prize will be ours. And that's what happened. Okay, so, De Novo has a long way to go. I'm on the road right now raising money. I mean, we are thankful to Excellent Michigan for giving us the seed money and really helping us, be on our road to achieving our vision to help humanity. And we will get there. But I would like to share a few other things about what we did right at HandyLab. Similar story at HandyLab, when we collated this young, bright group of people early on in the company, we again came up with our own exercise to figure out what our true values are. What is our culture? There's one thing we did, and we used to call it Friday Learnings. My colleagues from HandyLab, Gene, Aaron, they will know about it. So we decided, let's collectively learn every Friday over lunch, something new. So we invited students, we invited professors, we invited business leaders. We just would request people to come, eat lunch, and then share some stories about their expertise or about the company. You won't believe, a lot of the future employees of the company came through that event. So much so, Jeff Williams, who took HandyLab all the way to the successful exit in 2009, joined the company in March 2004. He was in fact one of those invitees of Friday Learning in 2002, and he talked about his story of genomic solutions. So that collective, shared, eagerness to learn something creates another, cultural habit of doing something together. We are all in together for creating something common good. And I just want to say that I see the same thing in De Novo Sciences, and I'm sure De Novo Sciences will be a hit down the road. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Kayan. Let me ask each of you, is there a story you can tell that shared with you that you had the right employee or employees? Is there something that took place that exemplified to you that you had a member of the team or a team that was the right team for you that stood out in the development of your companies?
Well, in our case, it was a matter that when we sat down, and one of the education processes that we had to go through was understanding the language of bankers. And when I was able to sit down with my team and go through that process, one of the greatest compliments I ever got was we did and this is a very odd process, we literally at one meeting had 5 investment bankers in the same room. Putting those 5 animals in the same room, as I think you can all imagine, it was like a nightmare. And each of those investment bankers came up to me afterwards and said to me, "You've got a great team. They know their roles. They understand from product to marketing," and we had just a tremendous session of interactivity. It was like it wasn't a presentation. It was a discussion. And I would encourage all of you, I know the roles can be defined in organizations, but when people in manufacturing can be talking about sales and talking with the voice of their customer in their head, that they're not just focused on operations. When the head of finance can be talking about how the manufacturing is done or how the intellectual property assets are valued for the firm, those kind of overarching skill sets really imply that the management team is together. And that was a point in my experience of bringing this team together, because you never really know until you get in front of the people who really judge you. And in this case, it was the investment bankers, that we had a very solid team and one we could really launch a business with.
Okay.
Well, I think it's very important for the nucleus of the early employees to set the right culture. And what happens is, once you have a strong team in place that has a very well-defined personality, so as new employees come on board, either they are taken in or they are weeded out. So people that don't fit the culture usually are not part of the team. That's what happens. Sometimes the team might make some mistakes, and then down the road that will play out in what you do, and then you have to decide, okay, this is not the right fit for both the person and the team, and then you have to part ways. But that doesn't happen if you get the whole team involved in that, embracing the new person. So you can if you do a interview process where you get the whole team involved, usually that doesn't happen.
Let me ask, we've got a lot of entrepreneurs out there that are getting products into market, trying to develop products. As you value a company, there's a valuation process. Where does the team come in to the valuation along with the product?
Well, I would say in our case, we had two different products. We had one that was declining systematically, and we had one that was growing. And the team was able to articulate how each was going to be managed in a different way with different resources and different expectations. And those stories, as been talked about, the culture was passed on to the employees and expectations were set. Very clear expectations about what we expected out of one business or another. And I think that aspect of the team pulling together in that way and really being on the same page made a huge difference in how the company evolved.
Yeah, the valuation of the team gets reflected in the kind of challenges that you take. For example, in the case of HandyLab, we took on a huge challenge. Nobody had tried to integrate a lot of steps into one machine that could take a clinical sample and give you a result in an hour. That was a huge challenge. I mean, there were corporate giants, the bears in the marketplace, that had to put in hundreds of millions of dollars and still not get a product out because it was so complicated. So it was only because we had the belief in the team that we can take this huge unsurmountable challenge and do it. And the proof is in the pudding that when you go through the investor pitches and then you lay out, okay, this is what we had planned to do and this is what we have done, they were wowed by what we had achieved. So it gets reflected in what you do and what products you build. So it's ultimately because you had the right team in place.
Challenges, you spoke of challenges. Can each of you share the greatest challenge you had to work your way through when you thought the day was as dark as it could get, and what got you through it?
I'm starting to sweat right now. The greatest challenge we had was things out of your control. If everybody remembers back to 2008, so we were an ongoing firm, profitable, moving forward, everything's tickety-boo, we're investing in new products and services, and all of a sudden we hit something that's called this banking environment. And we end up, we made the choice that our bank was a bank that literally went under. Many people probably remember National City. That was not a good place to be. So we were in the process ended up getting recapitalized, but the darkest day was when that National City banker said, I don't want to be your banker anymore. And you look at them and you say, well, wait a minute, I signed up for a long-term program and they're saying, in that situation, this one individual told me, well, Michigan isn't on our drawing board anymore. And I'm glad those situations have changed. The company was able to work through that. but educating and talking to our employees and, quite frankly, talking to our customers and our vendors who were very open because everybody was in the same boat. A lot of people were fighting that same fight. And I've talked to other entrepreneurs and people who had $100 million companies that had been around for literally over 50 years. And many of those would have different stories in the same way. So our darkest hour was to work through that, but I'm happy to say that the company was able to move through that, get recapitalized with more stable funding, and move forward.
Thank you.
I'll tell a story about HandyLab. HandyLab was started in 2000, and we had lofty goals of integrating a lot of technologies into one portable product. So it took us time to develop all the key technologies, and then we had a product in clinical trials in 2006. But then we started learning about the marketplace. The market was not going to be there where we wanted to be. The setting was not going to be the doctor's office, but the hospitals. Our product was not a fit for the market we're going after. And then we decided as a company, the management, that we need to go back to the drawing board after having spent tens of millions of dollars. And then you try to get the board and the investors to agree to that switch, going back to the drawing board. So at some point we thought the company will never be alive the next day. And it was very, very intense, but we did a good job getting everyone on the same page, the employees, the management, and the investors. And then after that, we decided, okay, this is the product we're going to build, and it was the fastest product ever, so complicated. We got from that point to the market in 18 months, and it was an amazing feat. And all we could do that because of what we had done so before and the amazing team we had. So it's definitely one of those key things that either you are just another startup that tried it, or you want to be something that really made it big. And then the product that we launched in the marketplace was all hospitals wanted that. And then that's one of the reasons why we got quoted by a lot of collaborators, and then eventually Becton Dickinson bought us for a lot of money.
One of the strengths of technical people is the passion for statistics, systems, processes. And what comes with that is a tendency to forget about people and the people side of the business. They, in a behavioral assessment, they're on the same vector. One's on one end, and people are on the other end. How, in a technical business, do you keep the people side of the business forefront for employees?
Well, you have to, as leaders and managers, you have to understand that any technology is only good for so long a time. After all, it's people who creates the technology that exists in technology. So ultimately, it boils down to people who are passionate about doing something different and new and great. So if leaders learn that key thing, you need to have the right people showing a lot of passion. Anything can be built. Anything can be built if it is physically possible.
I'd also add that I have found that technology people, if the vision is there, and quite frankly, the same vision from the senior management, the owners, all the way down to the people who are either writing the code or working with people on the outside to develop the products, that those technical people are truly excited about the opportunity. When we were introducing Xanadu, and only 10% of the people were using the product electronically, we didn't know the iPad was coming out, but we knew that the product was going to explode at some point when the laptop or the handheld devices that we were seeing in phones were going to just explode. And again, we didn't have any insight into the iPad app, but we knew that application was going to be out. And I think we constantly talked that when some device came out that students could really use in their hands, much like a phone, that the business was going to explode. And our technical people followed that and followed through all the way to the end, and were able to participate in that app development on the back end of the process. And they were thrilled that they had that opportunity.
Great. We've got 3 questions that we're going to address, and one is that what if a new hire seems right at the start, and then the competency and the culture fit doesn't work out? What do you do?
My guidance is you do the most humane thing possible. If they're not a match in the organization, you don't wait, you don't try and fix it. You allow the person, as the British would say, to be freed up and seek other opportunities.
You give the new hire a chance to prove himself that he can line up his motivation along with the visions and culture of the company. If not, you just let the person go. It's good for the organization and good for the person, both.
I think what Callian is saying, let me share that if you look at these 3 principles up there that have to do with purpose, vision, and values, and that is your identity, it's like a garden. We can have a wonderful environment to grow trees in Ann Arbor. We can have the right soil, we can have the right moisture and the right sunshine. But a king palm tree isn't going to grow very well in Ann Arbor. And it doesn't mean it's a bad tree, it just means it's in the wrong place. And for it to flourish, it needs to have the right ingredients, the right sunshine, the right water. And it doesn't mean that anything's wrong with the company or the individual. They just need to find another match. And you're doing both a favor by separating. Michelle, then, how do you ascertain proper fit when you're putting a team together? Kind of talked about cultural fit. How do you ascertain cultural fit?
Okay, we both at Handy Lab and De Novo Sciences, we consciously did some exercises. At Handy Lab, I remember way back when the team was only about 5 or 6 people, we actually gathered around the table and said, each person identified 3 values that they really liked. We also did an exercise where we identified 3 idols or 3 people that we really like to emulate. And then we collectively figured out 3 or 4, I think 4 values. I think Gene and Aaron can probably, corroborate me. One was honesty. That's what we came up to. The second one we said, passionate about our work. Third one was, collective learning. And fourth one was one of those, I forgot. But, it's basically you consciously create, figure out what your values are. And then next time you get an employee on board, if those values don't match, then, you should have a red flag going up. And I think, the same thing happened with De Novo Sciences. We consciously talk about all the values we represent. And it's very similar, I think good things have very similar foundation. That's what I believe in.
Well, I also have the good fortune of, with this new organization that I'm a part of now, Apogee Insights, and we're focusing on intellectual capital. I'm actually building a new team with that organization from the ground up. And going through that same process, you learn from that first process of several years ago, but you also fine-tune it in your mind. You bring people with skills that don't overlap. You bring people who have been successful before, and people who have a vision very similar to yours. And we talked to some people who, quite frankly, didn't fit into that vision. And it was very much of a group evaluation to say, it's not just Dan Arbor saying this person is right or wrong. It is the group that says that this person will make a good fit, that they really can add value to this organization as we move forward and focus on publishers, intellectual property from the standpoint of R&D, and maximizing the business models. I mean, we want people who are passionate about what's going to happen to the next Borders or Barnes & Noble or those kind of organizations and the whole publishing process. And I think you find that by talking to somebody. If somebody is just coming in and doing their job in small startups, that doesn't work. They've got to say that they are going to be an industry expert across the board and want to do other things in the organization.
Your identity, your culture is based upon your purpose for being, which let's hope it's one in service of others, as opposed to in service of yourself. A vision that is compelling and meaningful and deeply meaningful to you, and 4 or 5 values that you use for decision making. And this goes back to Hewlett and Packard, who got together with a few other friends that had alignment in who they were and what they wanted, difference they wanted to make in the world, and they had no product. and tried a number of things until they came up with the electronic business. So it starts with culture. And our last question is, how do you manage culture when you have so many priorities? You've got deadlines to meet, you've got product to get out the door. How do you attend to culture under such a stressful environment?
Well, I would only say that culture starts from the leadership of your immediate team, but starts with yourself. It starts with the integrity of you as an individual. When you come into work every day, the decisions that you made, do you have a core fabric inside of you that says that people will be willing to follow this leader? Do they demonstrate those core values of respect for individuals, respect for customers? I hate the word target audience, for example. Some people would use that and I just cringe. No one that we work with is a target. They are people, they have families, they go home every night, they hug their kids. You want that same opportunity, and that is part of the culture that you instill and part of the integrity, I think, that you need to instill in business every day.
Yeah, there are a lot of things you need to do in a startup. People have to wear different hats. One of the key things you try to do in your culture, and that is to create good milestones for you and the company. And those should be a few. I mean, in a year, you should have only 4 or 5 goals, and that's it. And you should maintain the sanctity of those milestones. You do all your best collectively to achieve those, and then you pat yourself in the back once you achieve those, and then give yourself a real hard time for missing it. And then you should have a warning system where you know that you're not going to meet some milestones, and be proactive in fixing those early on. So I think you can still do a lot of things by having a culture, by giving attention to details in culture. And that's, the beauty is trying to distill down all the millions or hundreds of tasks into key milestones that your company have to achieve in order to get to the next stage.
So when this realization came on what makes great organizations great, we implemented it at Michigan Athletics in the early 90s. And in 3 years had teams winning at the highest rate in the history of the school. But the reality is that the most rewarding part of it is that the parents were coming to us telling us their children were having the greatest experience of their lives. Not only were they winning where they never won before, but they're having the greatest experience. They loved their coaches, they loved their school, they loved their team, they loved everything part about their life. And that is what, when you know you organically are growing the right fruit in the right soil. So I shared with Bo that I was going to go out and start my own business in executive coaching, team building, organizational development, and what the foundation was going to be. So I shared this template that you see behind us with Bo on how it works. You know what his comment was? Doesn't everybody do that? Some people are born with it, but those of us that aren't born with it, we can learn it. It is a discipline. It doesn't come easy. It takes work. But when you have alignment, you've got everyone in the company staying up at night fixing your problems. When you don't have alignment, you are the only one not sleeping at night. With that, thank you very much. Great to be with you.
Thank you so much.
Oh yeah, we're well trained.
Wonderful. Thank you. One of the highlights of ACE each year, we are next going to move on to the ACE12 elevator pitch competition. For those of you that have been here in the past few years, last 4 or 5 years anyway, tonight's MC for the ACE elevator pitch competition needs no introduction. Chris Holman is an entrepreneur, media personality, and business owner. He started the promoting the Michigan business community ever since. He has hosted a variety of radio and TV shows and continues to host a statewide radio show, the Michigan Business Beat, through the Michigan Talk Network. He launched the Michigan Business Network last June. Chris has served as Michigan's Small Business Advocate and is chairman of the National Small Business Association, the oldest national small business advocacy organization in the United States. Please welcome Chris Holman back to ACE.
Thank you, Diane. It's always good to see you. Incidentally, for those of you who want an update, I drove that very car here tonight, as a matter of fact. So see how successful I've been as an entrepreneur. A lot of things happening tonight. Welcome to the most entertaining, most fun entrepreneurial competition in this hemisphere. You are a big part of it, and we want you to loosen up a little bit tonight and have a little fun, because that's what entrepreneurship is all about, and certainly what this competition is all about on this 12th ACE. We're going to have a great time. So with that, let me invite the judges up, and the entrepreneurs, please make your way up onto the stage if you would. And let me tell you a few things while they're coming up here. First of all, each presenter is going to have 3 minutes tonight to present their company or business ideas in an elevator pitch format while they wait in line at a coffee shop. And I'm going to be in line just behind them, okay? So if you've ever been accosted at a coffee shop, you're going to see it done with dignity tonight. The judges have a scoring sheet in front of them. They'll be listening for a number of things: a clear identification of the speaker and company, a statement of the market pain and their solution, an explanation of the product or service, their stage of development and competitive advantages, the ask: is it clear what the company needs to move forward? How often have we dealt with that? And last but not least, pizzazz: presentation style, creativity, stage presence, and ability to engage an audience. Now, what about scoring? Well, each judge is going to evaluate the pitches on the criteria that I just mentioned, and the company which receives the highest total score will be declared the winner. And the winner will take possession of the coveted, yes, the coveted ACE Cup. This trophy is awarded annually at ACE and has the name of each year's winner engraved on it, and it is truly the Stanley Cup of regional entrepreneurship. Don't get carried away, because one year a competitor broke an arm skating the trophy around. Okay, so let me introduce the distinguished panel of judges. Sonali Vijay Avarija. He is the managing director of Augment Ventures. Sorry. I thought you... And, Augment Ventures is from here in Ann Arbor. Pete Farner, general partner of TGAP Ventures in Kalamazoo. Pete, good to see you again. Frank Legacki, he is the director of Fletcher Spate Ventures in Boston, Massachusetts. There you go. Excellent. You can get there from here. And Jonathan Murray, is this on? Jonathan Murray, Managing Director of Early Stage Partners from Cleveland, Ohio. Our distinguished judges. Entrepreneurs. Chad Stark, when I call your name, please stand up. Chad Stark from Through M. Through I Am. Okay, they're not capitalized, so it looks... From Phenometrics. Eric Kulstad from Advanced Cooling Therapy, LLC. Giveaways, Eric, because you're already standing. I'm so sorry you didn't get a seat. That's not a disadvantage in this competition, by the way. Laura Schrader, 3D Biometric. And Phil Lewis, Dynamic Intelligent Solutions. and Susan Sprentel from Sir Clean. All right, with that, I'm going to go out here. Now, remember that your eye contact with me is important, but the judges want to see part of that as well. So I'm going to bring you out one at a time, and you're going to present to me. We're going to be standing in line. You're going to turn around, and you're going to start your 3-minute elevator pitch. And we have a 3-minute clock right here. And at 2:59, you'll feel the trapdoor start to open, okay? So first up is Chad Stark. Chad, if you would come out. And you're going to be here, because when I turn around, I want the judges to be able to see your face. So if you move from that mark, again, the trapdoor will begin to open. So right on that mark, you're moving. Get over there. All right. So here we are in line. Judges, can you get a full frontal here? All right, good. All right. Turn on your line. We're going that way. And the time starts now.
Aged 13 to 24, and found that the average user sends 3,000 texts per month, while voice activity within this demographic decreased 14% last year. To solve this problem, we built Through IM, which is a mobile website that lets you transact with any business via text conversations for things like orders, reservations, and frequently asked questions. It's as easy as texting a friend, but instead of searching a friend's name in your phone book, you search a business's name in our phone book, type your message, and get on with your day. We make sure that your question gets answered or your order gets placed, and that you get a text response back. The app is completely free for users to use, and we charge businesses 5% of the transaction fees that we send them through our service. We list all businesses in our service from the start by enrolling them in a free trial period where they're utilizing our contact center to have conversations on their behalf. Once they reach enough transaction and conversation volume that they're no longer in our free trial period, we reach out to these businesses, show them the demand that we created for them, and try to strike a transactional sales relationship with them. By engaging in a sales relationship with us, they get access to our mobile marketing platform, which allows them to reach consumers through text on their mobile devices during off-peak hours. And they also get access to our analytics software, which analyzes what consumers are saying, so they have an opportunity to upsell their customers and to present relevant daily deals. Businesses who don't engage with us in a sales capacity get taken out of our service. And finally, we sell the search and conversation data our users generate to behavioral targeting companies like Dadium, who sell this, who package this as consumer web behavior that ad agencies use to target customers. Our market is the 22.5 million people who currently use web tools to transact with businesses like OpenTable or Campus Foods. These web tools value transactions at $1 per transaction, and the average user makes 0.8 transactions per year. This means that our addressable market is $916 million per year. However, users will use us instead of other web tools because we're completely free on the user's end. We allow them to multitask and talk to multiple businesses at once, and we allow them to do multiple things at once, like place orders and make reservations from one interface. Our team consists of 2 Michigan senior BBAs, 2 Michigan computer science engineers, and 2 Michigan State business students. And together, we've spent 12 months in the University of Michigan Incubator Tech Arb, have raised $23,000 in grants from the universities, and have started a business that grows $500,000 in sales revenue its first 6 months. We're looking for $500,000 to scale to our next beta, and remember, through IM, everything's easier.
Absolutely. Chad, thank you so much. No, you're perfect. You're absolutely perfect. By the way, some young kid came through and drank your coffee. I'm so sorry. So sorry. Thank you, Chad. Appreciate it. All right, next up, Mimi Hall.
No, hand it off.
All right, Mimi.
We're an instrumentation company in the algae biofuel industry. I bet you don't know that there's a revolution going on out there right now. And the scientists have discovered that there are algae that create biofuel. And this biofuel can be used for air transportation and for car transportation and for other energy needs in the United States. Algae biofuel actually will promise the reduction of emissions, the reduction of being able to foreign oil, and also increase jobs for the public sector. But there's a problem. Imagine that you're a scientist, and your job is to figure out which of the algae biofuel, which of the algae creates the most biofuel. Now imagine that you found this perfect algae, and you take it out to the pond, and you put it in the pond, and it dies. Why? Because the conditions in the pond have nothing to do with the conditions in the lab. The sun goes up and down out in the pond, and it has different temperatures, and then you don't have that in the lab. So this has been a big issue for this industry. This is a big problem until now. Our company, Phenometrics, has created a photobioreactor that reproduces the conditions out in the field. So we bring the outdoors indoors into the lab. And it allows scientists to take a look at all of the parameters they need in order to find the best algae biofuel to be scaled up later on. As a matter of fact, our first order has gone out to the Los Alamos National Lab, and so it is a product that is quite in demand. Our customers are scientists from universities, national labs, and also biofuel companies that are looking to scale up algae biofuel for the future. Our company has a serial entrepreneur. We have a Hannah Distinguished Professor from MSU, as we are an MSU tech transfer company, and an awesome development team. We are really happy to be an MSU tech transfer company, and we are looking for investors who want to share in this revolution and who want to save the world. Do you know any?
We all want to save the world. Thank you so much, Peter. Well, you started with a revolution and wound up saving the world, maybe. That's quite... Therapy LLC. Eric?
Thanks, Chris, very much. I'm Eric Kolstad. I'm the founder of Advanced Cooling Therapy. And please let me tell you about our revolutionary approach to controlling a patient's temperature that saves lives while saving hospitals money. In the U.S., over 500,000 patients a year suffer a cardiac arrest. That's over 1,000 patients a day. Boom. Patient goes down. What do? New CPR asks one question and only one question. Is the patient breathing? No. Put your hands on their chest. Push hard, push fast. How fast? That's it. Now you know CPR, you can save a life. However, the problem is once the patient is resuscitated, the brief moments that they went without a heartbeat are enough to cause brain damage that more often than not results in the patient dying in 1 to 2 days or persisting in a vegetative state. In 2007, Newsweek highlighted on its cover article the amazing recoveries we're seeing with proper application of cold treatment or therapeutic hypothermia after resuscitation from cardiac arrest. This therapy doubles the chances of a patient surviving. However, here we are in 2012, less than 10% of eligible patients are getting this treatment. And that's because the existing devices that we have to control the patient's temperature are risky, invasive, difficult to use, dangerous, or expensive. Advanced cooling therapy's revolutionary new technology is a device that cools through the esophagus. This device simply replaces the existing nasogastric tube that's already placed in the target patient population, maintains the functionality of the gastric tube
solves a significant clinical problem and an urgent market need. The market is large and growing and currently served by inadequate and fragmented competition. This revolutionary novel device is supported by robust intellectual property filings with a, is that two? with a clear, strong market pull and clear and efficient 510K pathway for FDA clearance. The company is led by strong management, supported by expert advisors and board members who will bring this technology to market to save thousands of lives and millions of dollars a year. The company is strategized for a 4 to 5 year acquisition by any of a number of already interested acquirers, and the company is currently looking for $100,000 to complete preclinical data.
Excellent, thank you, Eric. And thank you, Patrick. So, did you know another statistic is that more people die to the Bee Gees than to Neil Diamond? Okay.
Hi, I'm Laura Schrader from 3D Biomatrix, and we make three-dimensional cell culture tools that help the drug discovery market discover better drugs earlier in the process. But everybody knows in the pharmaceutical world that it takes about $1 billion and 10 to 15 years to take just one drug to market. And the reason for this is largely because they are spending a lot of time testing drugs that are ultimately from failed results early in the screening process. So imagine when drugs look promising earlier on in their screening phase that they always or often fail in the animal and human testing phases. So imagine now if they could increase the effectiveness of this pre-screening process and reduce those false results that they spend so much time and money on. That's exactly what our products do. I happen to have one right here. Yeah. We call this our hanging drop plate. And so what this allows researchers to do is to identify drug therapies faster and more effectively than they can do today in 2D. They're very easy to adopt, they're inexpensive, and they're very effective. The problem is this. Today, researchers are using two-dimensional well plates that have a flat bottom like a petri dish to do their testing in. And so when this happens, they take round cells from a round tumor and they put it into these flat plates and they flatten at the bottom. That's not how cells and tumors exist in our bodies, in our three-dimensional bodies. So now, when they test drugs on these cells in this flat, unnatural state, the results are unnatural, and this is where the false results come from. So our plates are designed to reduce those false results. Okay, they're a patent-pending design. They fit with existing laboratory equipment, and they allow researchers to achieve the three-dimensional environment to test and do screening before the animal and human testing phases. So now when researchers do this, they can identify drug therapies faster and more effectively than they can do today in 2D. So when they do that, they save a lot of time. When they save time, they save money and use fewer animals to get to market. So our company has just recently launched on the market, and we're happy to say that we have customers like Abbott, Merck, Bayer, Genentech, and some leading research institutions around the globe buying our products. We have paying customers. And so we are seeking investors to participate in our Series A round of $2 million in order to expand our market presence globally, quickly, and to add 2 to 3 new product lines to our offering. And we're really excited about its acceptance.
Excellent stuff.
Thank you.
Appreciate that, Laura. Next up, Philip Lewis from Dynamic Intelligent Solutions.
Hey, how you doing? My name is Phil Lewis. I'm the Technical Engineering Manager at Dynamic Intelligent Solutions. Do you know today's traditional test methods to test automotive products is to put those products inside environmental chambers, hot and cold chambers, high humidity chambers, and solar radiation chambers. By doing so, these automotive products and automotive manufacturers can understand how those products are changing in extreme climate conditions. With that help and that understanding, they can build better products that will resist heat and sun in Phoenix or cold temperatures in Alaska. But there's a disconnect with that, and then that disconnect is the fact that they can only provide data on a product inside these hot-cold chambers or so on before and after it has gone through that type of test. So now you don't get the actual understanding of how the product is changing throughout the process. You're only getting a before and an after idea. The problem with that is you're not going to build a product better and extremely contingent to the type of environmental temperatures that you see in the real world. So here comes DIS, Dynamic Intelligent Solutions. And what we've done is we have a patent pending design called ChamberCam. And with ChamberCam, we're able to take 3D optical measurement technology and insert it into that environmental chamber. So now we've eliminated the idea of what really is going on with a product while it's heating up or cooling off, because we can see it with our cameras, we can measure it with our cameras, and we can understand how a product is changing throughout temperatures and throughout humidity and time. What you see by doing that is you're gaining so much knowledge, and a manufacturer is going to be able to take that knowledge and apply it to make better processes. By making better processes, they could build better products, they could reduce time and cost, and they could get product to market extremely fast. Now, if a manufacturer wanted to test their product while it's in a chamber, well, they're going to have to go in with a measuring stick, they're going to have to go in with a pair of calipers, and you're going to get the most hated guy in the company to do this, because nobody wants to go inside a 180-degree chamber or a minus 50-degree chamber. And they're going to go ahead and try to measure it. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't want to sit in that hot or cold chamber, so I'm going to measure it as fast as I can and get the heck out of there. So by entering cameras, optical measurement systems into the chamber, we eliminate the need for a body to physically go in there, all while we're able to capture all that dynamic data. And also, did I even mention that the camera systems themselves measure three-dimensionally? So technically, we use 3D optical camera systems. Now, I don't know about you, but I've watched Avatar. However, in this 3D scenario, you don't need glasses because you see it all on the screen. Do you want to make better products?
Absolutely. Thanks, Phil. Appreciate it. Well, something tells me you've been practicing in coffee shops. Have you? Good job. All right, next up is...
Hi, I'm Susan Sprentel. I'm with Circling Inc., and I am a laser-based coatings removal company located in Wixom, Michigan. We are in business as a spinoff from my original company, American Laser Enterprises, where we've been afforded the opportunity to work with the U.S. Air Force in laser-based coating removal products. And we're saving you, the taxpayer, about $7.5 million annually by using this process on one aircraft at Hill Air Force Base. So I want to commercialize this product. We are spinning this off. We have a market that's approximately $9 billion that spans across many industries, including the airline market, vessels, water towers, bridges, anywhere where you're using abrasives or media blasting. And you're saying, why laser? Why not keep it the way that it is? Well, lasers can be controlled. We've developed a laser process controller that allows us to actually look through the process. We can tell if we're at the primer or at the substrate. And that substrate may be composites. Composites are not compatible with chemicals or abrasives. So with our manufacturing technologies going for lighter, more efficient weight, lasers is going to be the only alternative to be able to do this. We would be the first U.S. company. We do have competition in Germany. However, they are only focused on the laser resonator, the source itself, where we're focusing on the end effector and making it ergonomically safe and sound for the operator. We are asking for $4.5 million. Our first round is $1.2 million. We anticipate that in year 2, we will be profitable. In year 5, we'll be approximately $20 million. Which giving the investor a 6 to 9 times their initial investment. My management team consists of myself and Terry McEwen, who's been my business coach, my engineers at ALE, who've been in the laser industry for over 30 plus years. So we feel like we have a sound team ready to go to market. We just need a little bit of funding so that we can kick this off here in the good old US of A.
Excellent. Thank you. Here for our presenters, by the way. Great job. And how about a round of applause for our near-dead guy, too? All right, so at this point, I'm going to ask all the judges to retire to the deliberation room where you will deliberate. We're also going to ask you for comments on the would fill in the front row here and do not deliberate because that's for the deliberation room, all right? Now at this point in time, I'd like to bring up Zachariah Sheikh to the stage. And Zach, you have a few things to do. And please welcome Zachariah Sheikh.
Good evening, everyone. Let's give it up again for the entrepreneurs that were just here. Today, I am proud to be launching Startup Michigan. It was just over a year ago that President Obama issued a call to the private sector to allocate resources and products that can move and accelerate startup growth here in the United States. We're going to hear and learn more about the Startup America Partnership in a second. But early last year, Startup Michigan was nothing more than a vision. Scott and I, who will be our keynote speaker, had talked about what was happening with Startup America Partnership on a national level, about the startup regions that were taking form around the country, and the resources that were being utilized by the startups across the states to accelerate startup growth. In addition to the usual checklist of resources that an entrepreneur would normally tap into at a state or county level, this was a doorway for the entrepreneur to tap into national resources to accelerate startup growth. I mentioned that Startup Michigan was nothing more than a vision early last year, but just as the startup team comes together with people that share the same vision and the same conviction, we had a groundswell of support from entrepreneurs and entrepreneurial services organizations and many folks from the private sector that came together and really believed that this resource Rochester, Ann Arbor, and bring Startup Michigan over here to help our entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs and organizations that support them were a driving force in this grassroots initiative. Our vision was and will continue to be that Startup Michigan is an initiative that, while supported by a diverse cross-section of our ecosystem, is led by entrepreneurs such as yourselves. I want to recognize the members of the Startup Michigan Working Group. These were the folks that toiled countless hours, organizations and individuals, into taking that vision for Startup Michigan and making it a reality. Organizations like Automation Alley, BizdomU, Central Michigan University College of Business Administration, Grand Valley State University, Grand Valley State University Seidman College of Business, Great Lakes Entrepreneurs Quest, Invest Detroit, Michigan Venture Capital Association, MIT Enterprise Forum, Momentum, Oakland University Incubator, and Southwest Michigan Innovation Center. So let's give these organizations a round of applause. I also want to thank entrepreneurs like Kalyan Handi, whom we just heard a few minutes ago, Jeff Epstein and Ajay Kapoor for their vision and leadership in guiding this initiative. I want to thank the ACE Planning Committee for sharing this vision with the working group and providing this event as a platform to launch Startup Michigan. I also want to thank GLEQ. Startup Michigan is collaborating with GLEQ to provide resources to Michigan entrepreneurs. And any entrepreneur will tell you that a great idea and vision and support isn't enough. You also need capital to make things happen. So I'm particularly grateful to Butts Along and Comcast Business Class for their generous support in making this launch possible. And last but certainly not least, I want to express appreciation and gratitude to Scott Case and Donna Harris for their support for Startup Michigan. Thank you, Scott and Donna. Over 3,000 startups across 53 states have registered for Startup America. In Michigan, over 50 companies across 20 industry sectors and from Saugatuck to Detroit have registered for Startup America. One of these companies is Ann Arbor-based Avamine, which was launched recently by a U of M grad. The company has seen a 250% year-over-year revenue growth, has completed over 200 projects for clients comprising individuals, small and medium-sized businesses, and Fortune 500 companies. The company started with 2 co-founders and now has 10 folks working for them, and they are hiring, the founder told me, every month. What a breath of fresh air to hear that from a Michigan company. Avamine was one of 25 companies selected from registered Startup America companies for the Startup America Super Bowl pitch contest. Each selected company had 24 hours to submit a 1-minute YouTube pitch, which was evaluated by an investment committee, which included Brad Feld, and the Super Bowl host committee. The winner would get a trip, all expense paid, boarding and lodging included, to the Super Bowl, where they would have press and marketing opportunities and have the chance to get mentoring from Startup America's CEO, Scott Case. Last week, we learned that Avamine beat out companies from all around the country to be the winner of this Super Bowl package. I want to recognize Neil Thanader, the founder of Avamine Analytical Services. Neil, if you're in the audience, please come up. It's entrepreneurs like him and like yourselves in the audience that will transform Michigan. A round of applause for all the entrepreneurs in the audience. Before we hear from our keynote speaker, we have a video presentation from Startup America.
Hi, I'm Scott Case, the CEO of the Startup America Partnership, and I'm just thrilled to see the progress we've made in just our first year here across the entire country. In fact, right now, 15 states are hosting fantastic events that have become startup regions with over 3,000 people attending all across the country. It was only a year ago today that the Startup America Partnership was launched at the White House, with our partners, the Case Foundation and the Kauffman Foundation, really leading the way.
I'm Steve Case. I want to talk to you about Startup America that we're proud to be announcing today.
Startups are the center of everything we do at Startup America. And the reason is that startups that grow are the job creators in America. In fact, all the net new jobs created in the last 30 years were created by companies less than 5 years old. Companies just like the ones sitting in the room around you. And that's the basis for everything that we do at the Startup America Partnership.
America's always been a nation of doers. We build things, we take risks, and we believe that if you have a good idea and are willing to work hard enough, you can turn that idea into a successful business. We also help launch something called the Startup America Partnership to connect these entrepreneurs with private companies and get them the resources they need, from mentorship opportunities to leads on potential customers.
In March, I jumped right in as the CEO of Startup America Partnership and did some speaking engagements at Demo in the spring and went on to South by Southwest. And we started to road test some very core ideas about how the Startup America Partnership was going to help America's entrepreneurs. The first idea was to bring partners together that could provide specific resources to help startups grow. The second core idea was partnering with leading entrepreneurs in regions across the country to work to help strengthen their ecosystems. And finally, how could we celebrate the amazing startups from all across the country and help them raise their visibility and ultimately raise their game. We began with our partners and started to think, okay, what kind of partnerships do we want to bring? We identified 5 key areas that we felt every startup could benefit from: expertise, support services, talent, customers, and capital. And in April, we announced our first round of partnerships from companies like American Express and Microsoft, Intuit, Ernst & Young, and many more. And together, they collected over $400 million in in-kind resources that could help America's startups grow. We then were approached by the amazing people in the state of Illinois, including Governor Quinn, Brad Keywell, and Kevin Willer, and launched Startup Illinois, the first state to take on the idea of elevating the startup game in their area. It was quickly followed by the leadership of Michael Burcham and Governor Haslam in the state of Tennessee when Startup Tennessee launched, and laid the groundwork for many other states, many of the ones that are watching this video right now. Finally, we began to tell startup stories in venues like TiCon, where we told the stories of great companies like Dropbox and many others, and began to broadcast those out so people could see what were some of the great startups that were happening. In fact, we partnered with many accelerators around the country to bring 4 amazing startups to the first ever CGI America. And one of those startups got to stand up in front of 1,000 people and pitch President Clinton on their great idea. This past summer, we were honored to announce our all-entrepreneur board, made up of amazing startup professionals who have had great success. Awesome entrepreneurs like Tory Burch, Nina Vaca, and Lynn Jurek, and Michael Dell, Kevin Plank, Reed Hastings, Reed Hoffman, Fred Smith, Raul Fernandez, Magic Johnson, and Pamela Contag. We also announced our first 4 major corporate sponsors: American Express Open, Dell, Microsoft, and Intuit, all stepped up to help Startup America expand our work and raise our game even higher. And we're incredibly grateful for their support. In September, we partnered with Microsoft and Startup Weekend to do the first ever Mega Startup Weekend. 300 entrepreneurs got together to create 30 teams, creating companies in just 2 days. 3 of those companies, one from each track of education, healthcare, and games, got to participate in Demo Fall, where they got to pitch investors. And one of them got a chance at the demo stage to pinch over 400 investors on their newly formed company, only days old. We also launched our platform, the first time we were able to connect startups with the amazing partners we had already connected. And finally, we pitched and launched our next round of partners, $330 million in resources from Leadmaster, Dell, and Dun & Bradstreet. We then went on and saw some amazing new startup regions get launched. Startup Connecticut, led by Danny Briere, and Startup Massachusetts under the leadership of Corey Bolotsky. The launch of Startup Connecticut and Startup Massachusetts really set the stage for 4 more states to join the Startup America partnership. First was Startup Colorado, led by Brad Feld and many great entrepreneurs in the state of Colorado. We then saw Startup Florida launch with Susan Amat leading the way and Launchpad at the University of Miami. Next, we saw Startup Texas launch under the great leadership of John Price. And finally, Chris Renaud kicked things off at the Startup Iowa launch in Des Moines. It's been amazing to see these startups and come together under the leadership of some fantastic serial entrepreneurs all across the country. We also created a new kind of partnership with General Electric, where we launched a great program called the Startup Corporate Connections. The idea behind the program is to connect America's largest companies with America's fastest growing startups to help those startups grow and get access to new markets, new knowledge, and ultimately potentially customers. Last December, we had a fantastic board meeting at the White House. It was the first time our board members had gotten together in person. We met with the president, we met with leading cabinet officials, including those from the Small Business Administration, as well as Commerce, where we talked about the importance of startups and the startup economy. We also announced that we had crossed the $1.2 billion mark in in-kind resources. We announced new partnerships with Emma, NetSuite, and many others that have helped us grow and create even more resources for America's startups. We kicked 2012 off with a real bang at the Consumer Electronics Show, where we brought 4 great startups to be part of CES's inaugural Eureka Park. They were able to profile their businesses and get all kinds of access to great contacts, and we're going to continue that partnership into the next year. We also began to connect our startups with great experts in the field. We started with pitch coaching by the great Nathan Gold, and he's been helping startups refine their pitch and get their stories down. We're also connecting with great VCs, We've done a VC roundtable every week where startups can ask questions about capital formation. As we go into 2012, we're going to continue to expand those programs to connect more startups with more experts to help them across all the things that they need to help them grow their companies. Our mantra at the Startup America Partnership is simple. Startups plus growth equals a strong startup economy that ultimately leads to jobs and a greater future for all of us. As we look to 2012, we're going to focus our energy bringing in new partnerships, helping you in the regions grow and become stronger, and to help tell the stories of America's great startups. To that end, we've got things planned, including South by Southwest, bringing together our startup leaders in February in Miami to learn from each other. And to ultimately, my hope is to get to know all the folks in our new startup regions, including DC, Hawaii, Kansas, Michigan, Missouri, Nebraska, Rhode Island, Virginia, and Vermont. I hope to get out there and meet all of you and to learn more about the amazing things that you're doing. As I said, startups are at the center of everything we do at Startup America. We're focused on making them the heroes that they are, and every startup in the room really deserves a lot of credit. In fact, if you're a startup or starting a company, I want you to stand up right now, especially you guys in the back. Stand up. For everybody else in the room, let's give them a round of applause. They are the heroes of our economy, and let's celebrate them. Together, we can start up America.
Hello, Michigan. Hi, I'm Steve Case. I'm here on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. We're here to celebrate the first anniversary of the Startup America Partnership, and we feel like in the first year we made good progress in getting people all around the country focusing more on entrepreneurs and getting large companies to help the next generation companies kind of get started and scale and start launching our startup region. And we're delighted to be launching today in Michigan, obviously a great state. It's been a key part of our industrial revolution over the past century and is really poised, I think, for a real breakout next century around entrepreneurship. So thanks for being part of the Startup America Partnership. Thanks for joining us for this event today. I'm sorry I can't be there personally because it's really a very exciting time for Michigan, very exciting time for all the entrepreneurs all across the country. Let's start up Michigan.
Business class, one of our launch sponsors, to introduce our keynote speaker. Years of experience, Tom, mostly in leadership. Tom has worked for telecommunication leaders, including NCI, Sprint, and Siemens. Before joining Comcast, Tom received his bachelor's degree in business from Siena Heights College with a minor in marketing and successfully completed the strategic leadership curriculum at the University of Wisconsin. Tom Abraham.
Good evening. Comcast Business Services is a proud sponsor for the launch of Startup Michigan. Our company was founded in 1963 with less than 10 employees, and we've now grown to over 100,000 employees across the country. We're one of the world's leading media and entertainment communication companies, and we embrace and celebrate entrepreneurship, collaboration, and technology with partners such as Great Lakes Entrepreneur Quest, Automation Alley, Ann Arbor Spark, Tech Town, and MEDC in this very important initiative. This partnership is bringing together an alliance of major corporations working to increase the prevalence and success of tech companies. And that is the core mission of Comcast Business Services. Our state-of-the-art fiber optic network provides telecommunication services for businesses. We shall continue to invest in new technologies such as faster internet speeds, advanced voice services such as PRI, and enterprise fiber optic services to ensure that businesses remain productive and poised to grow while all the while saving money. This evening, I have the distinct privilege of introducing our keynote speaker, Timothy Scott Case. Scott Case is a technologist, entrepreneur, and inventor, and was founding CTO of Priceline, the Name Your Own Price company, that was one of only a handful of startups in U.S. history to reach $1 billion in annual sales in less than 24 months. As Chief Technology Officer, he was responsible for building the technology that enables Priceline's hyper-growth. Most recently, Scott was named CEO and board member of the Startup America Partnership, where he'll invest his energy to drive American entrepreneurship, to create jobs, and sustain our nation's global leadership. Prior to joining the Startup America Partnership, Scott served as CEO of Malaria No More, where he worked to inspire individuals and institutions in the private sector to end the deaths caused by malaria. Previously, Scott helped build a portfolio of intellectual property at the Walker Digital Invention Laboratory and is named inventor on dozens of U.S. patents, including the underlying portfolio for Priceline. Scott also co-founded Precision Training Software, a software company that developed the world's first PC-based simulated flight instructor and photorealistic flight simulator. Scott serves as the chairman of Network for Good, a national nonprofit that has distributed more than $475 million to 60,000 nonprofits and provides online fundraising and communication services to over 5,000 nonprofit organizations. He is also on the advisory board of Buy Kids for Kids, Tickets for Charity, and 3 Jars. So it's my great pleasure and honor to now introduce Scott Case.
Well, welcome, Michigan. I have a bunch of requests, actually. So all you guys standing up there, just come on down and find a seat, okay? Promise, we won't make fun of you anymore. But if you stand up there, I'll have to make fun of you. It's part of my shtick. So come on down. It's okay. Nobody will bite you. I mean, this person down here I'm not sure of, but everybody else I think won't be biting. So come on down, have a seat. It's like a vast empty spot here in the middle. But thank you all for joining us. I'm Scott Case. I'm the CEO of the Startup America Partnership. Thrilled to be here in Michigan, and just want to echo some of the things that I already said and we talked about on the video that you've already watched. The first and foremost is that the whole idea behind the Startup America Partnership is to help America's startups grow. We've been focused on startups from the very beginning, and we know that through the growth of young companies, a symptom of that growth is job creation. Every startup that focuses on growth is the kind of company that we want to be able to help and bring a wide range of resources together to help them. And the reason is that all of the net new jobs created in the last 30 years in the United States were created by companies less than 5 years old. It's young companies that are the job creators. Why? Because of their growth. So everything we do at the Startup America Partnership is about focusing on ways that we can help bring growth to America's young companies. So the first thing we did was we set up and found a wide range of partners. We circled up about $1.2 billion in resources to help young companies grow. And for those of you who are starting a company in the room, it's easy to join Startup America. It's free. And some of the basics that you get, first off, access to those $1.2 billion in partnerships. 50 different companies across the country and growing are finding ways to help your business grow. Second thing is we've assembled a community of startups from all over the country who are just like you. They're in various stages of their growth. They're trying to understand, and they're facing some of the same challenges you are, but we're connecting them together for both an online community, and we're connecting them together resources, whether it's pitch coaching, whether it's access to experts in the capital market space, ways for you to get expertise and knowledge to help you grow your business. And finally, we're trying to help tell your story. One of the things that we've observed at Startup America is there's this phenomenon of, there's all this startups happening, kind of what I think of as the primordial soup of our economy, right? You don't know which ones are going to break out. There's all this activity. It's happening here in Michigan. We saw 6 great pitches today, all these folks down in the room, that any one of which, maybe all of which, will have a breakout company. Problem is the ability to predict that, even with the esteemed judging panel that we have here, it's difficult. There's a lot of things that make being a successful startup a challenge. What we need to do is start to tell their stories more broadly than just on one stage here in Michigan. We need to tell it all across the country because great startups are happening everywhere. And so we want to help tell that story. It's critical because the breakouts get plenty of press. And the working assumption is that somehow great companies like Dow Chemical, Steelcase, Ford, somehow got booped here onto the planet by aliens. They didn't. They got started just like everyone and all the people who stood up before. A couple of people, an idea, a passion, a commitment to grow a company. And what we've got to do is to make sure we get back to those roots, which brings us to the second big goal for the partnership. First was help startups grow in a very targeted way. The second was we recognized that there were powerful centers of existing ecosystems that were very strong in helping startups grow. Places like Silicon Valley, New York, Boston, all of which had developed over a long period of time and had a commitment to creating a good startup network. The challenge was there were emerging startups happening everywhere in the United States. We saw them happening in places like Nashville, in Boulder, Colorado, in Ann Arbor, Michigan, places where there has been a rich history of innovation and startup success, but that hadn't been focused on for a long time. The emphasis had been on the large companies in those places. Again, they were all started by individuals. In the case of Ford, the name of the guy is still on the company. It's critical that we remember that and that we focus on celebrating those startups. And so what we've done in the startup regions is to help bring together folks like the leadership that's here in this room to focus on how do we make places like Michigan and the cities here like Ann Arbor and Detroit great places to start and grow companies. A lot of the assets are here already. There's a rich history. In fact, every city in America was built by entrepreneurs. Crazy people who showed up by any kinds of means of transportation they could figure out and decided that this was a great place to start whatever business they were going to create. Whether it was agricultural or manufacturing, didn't matter. That's the history of our country. And so we launched our startup regions with a real focus on how could we strengthen and build these ecosystems. And the first and most important thing is the entrepreneurs themselves. The only way to have a successful startup ecosystem is to build it around the startups themselves. So the event today with ACE is a perfect example of putting the startups at the center of everything that you do. It's the kind of thing that makes an ecosystem strong. But it's not enough, but it needs to be the focal point. And for those of you, just by a quick show of hands, how many in the room have started more than one company? Okay? Your job is to continue to invest in making this a great place and to give back. In addition to continuing to build the companies that you're building, you need to strengthen the ecosystem because the second thing that makes an ecosystem strong is the network density of the connections between successful startups, existing startups, and the startups between each other. It's what separates out the great entrepreneurial and startup hubs that have emerged over the last 50 years in places like Silicon Valley from everywhere else. It's the connections. It's great to have one event today. Your job, those serial entrepreneurs that are in the room, what can you do back in your home city or your home town? What are the ways that you can bring the entrepreneurs that are starting companies together to fill in that network density? The next thing that's really critical and very, very important is the connection and access to talent. We're in a university town. Really important to give the young people in the universities access to the startup scene. Very different from doing an entrepreneur class or having an education program around it. It's about taking the live startups that are building companies right now and connecting them with the students so they can see what it's like. Because it's no longer enough to have a formal education with a basic skill set to graduate from college. You've got to understand, if you're going to join the startup economy, you need to understand how startups work and you need to have that experience. And for those startups that are in the room, bring an intern in the summertime. Bring somebody along that's from the local universities. Because there's a lot of talk in the university scene about technology transfer. The real asset that universities bring is what I call talent transfer. How do you get the talent from the universities to plug in with the startups that are already happening? So that's a huge thing. And then the last two that I'll talk about is the role that big corporations play. Those same companies that were based here and grew up here in Michigan need to find ways to connect back into their startup roots, to tap into and make their companies startup friendly. And one of the things that Startup America is doing to help those large companies is we've partnered with a wide range of existing large companies like GE, Microsoft, Dell, Intuit, all of whom have committed to create what we're calling a Startup Corporate Connection Program. And I'm happy to say that we've got hundreds of companies that have already expressed interest in figuring out that they can be more startup friendly. So that when you're a startup and you knock on their door with your new product that they could have never imagined before, there's somebody on the other side to listen. There's nothing more frustrating than having the answer, but nobody to basically listen to the challenge that you have. And oftentimes with large companies, they spend a lot of time with their supply chain management focusing on all kinds of diversity for smaller businesses or women-owned businesses or minority-owned businesses. The challenge with being in the supply chain, if you're a large company, is the people in this room have invented stuff you didn't imagine. So by definition, they're not looking for it as a company. And the last piece is government. And I put government last because oftentimes people look to government for the answers. I think we've all experienced that that's not always the best place to look for those answers, especially for startups. But government plays a key role. They have to be at the table in order for the ecosystem to be successful because they help administer the rules of the game. They help understand and they help bring those environments there. So the key thing is to come back and understand from the startups. So any of you folks that are in economic development or you're at the universities or you're with large companies, your role is to figure out how to engage in the startup community and really understand what their needs are. The final thing that we focused on in Startup America comes back to telling stories. It's telling the stories of successful entrepreneurs. And for Michigan to really be successful, you've got to start by telling stories to yourselves. Your job is to make sure that the great startups that are happening, whether it's Avamine, who happened to get really selected somewhat randomly and then in a pool competed with a small group of other startups from the country. How do you tell Avamine's story to as broad a stage as possible? If you've got media relationships, how do you bring the media partnerships in to understand the startup scene? Because the thing that I've discovered having traveled around the country over the last year is that all those institutions I mentioned, large companies, government, universities, they don't understand what a startup is. That's a broad sweeping statement. I'm sure that there are people in every one of those places that do, but broadly, they don't have the experience. They haven't started companies themselves. They haven't stared down the face of payroll next week to see whether you're going to make it or not. They don't understand what it's like to start and grow a company. And what we need to do is we need to help educate them on that. Because these startups, like the ones in the room here, that grow and drive their businesses forward, they are the startup economy. And I can assure you, having traveled around the world, the rest of the world has figured it out. The democratization, that's a complicated word to say at 8 o'clock at night, is happening all across the world. The secret sauce is out. It's no longer enough for the United States to be the leading innovator. Everybody else is catching up. It's not that we're falling behind. So our job is to set the bar higher. And the only way that we can do that is to continue to press our investment and double down in the startups and that startup economy. That's a really simple thing. These startups that grow, they create the new markets, they create the new opportunities, they reinvent constantly. It's a messy business, but it's the only thing that's going to separate the U.S. from every place else is to continue to drive and set the bar higher and higher. So I'm thrilled to be here in Michigan because you join what today becomes 17 other states and regions around the country who have committed to focus on startups as the core of an economic strategy. It's not to say that you put Main Street businesses aside or that you put large companies aside, but it's really that you carve out and have a focus on these young companies that are growing. Because it's what's going to make Michigan a great place to continue to build great companies, is if you focus on them. So again, I want to congratulate everybody here. I know I started off with bringing the entrepreneurs up. I want to do it one more time. If you're starting a company right now, please stand up because it's really all about you. Please stand up. Come on, right now. And stay standing for 1 second. If you're sitting, your job is to help them. Okay? So I know that there's some networking that's happening after this. I don't know if we have time for questions. I'm happy to take a couple of questions from the audience if that's something of interest. You guys can sit down. But my final ask for you before I take any questions, if there are any, if we have time, is the network density thing. I can't overemphasize that. So your job before the end of the night is to meet 3 people today that you do not know. Okay? Pick any 3 people. Could be the people sitting behind you. Could be people outside. Could be people that you're going to have a drink with. Pick 3 people and introduce yourself to them. Because the network effect there is incredibly powerful. And you guys are the core of what's going to make Michigan a success. So again, thank you. I'm happy to take questions if there are any. Or I might be standing in the way of whoever the winner is. Go ahead. Do you have a question? Terrible salesperson that I am. Visit the Startup Michigan website, which I think is Startup Michigan. It's free to join. You'll get access to all the partnerships. You can also get access through the Startup America Partnership website. It's easy. It takes about 5 minutes. The most difficult thing about it is remembering your employer identification number. So if you have that on handy, that usually gets in the way. But that's about it. Other questions? Yeah, right here.
What was Ralph Bono's role in the formation of Priceline?
A Priceline.com question. So Ralph was an early investor and was an early member of our board, and was really critical. We went through a very, very fast, rapid cycle in the late 90s where we were not only one of the fastest companies to get to $1 billion, but we also went from conception to that scale in about 4.5 years. So we had a real hardcore group of people, and Ralph also brought expertise in the travel space, in the industry.
You know that he was a wrestler at the University of Michigan and actually funded a wrestling facility here at the university.
I did not know that, but I'm not surprised. Ralph Bono is involved in a lot of different things, so thank you for pointing that out to me. Other questions? Maybe one more? Maybe minus one more? All right, very good. Well, thank you all very much. I really appreciate it.
Tim, thank you for sharing that. And Zachariah and everybody who's part of this wonderful evening. At this point, I want to bring some people back to the stage. If the judges would please go back to their judging positions and the entrepreneurs come up here. And I'd also like to call to the podium Erica Block, because we are very close to what you've all come for, the awarding of the prize. Good. Erica Block, ladies and gentlemen, owns Local Orbit. It's a web platform that provides custom online marketplaces and back office infrastructure for businesses and people working to increase local food distribution. Since winning the elevator pitch competition last January, it was fun, wasn't it? Yeah. Founder and CEO Erica Block has tripled her team and expects to do the same in 2012. The company will be raising a Series A round later this year. And Detroit Eastern Market uses Local Orbit's tools to manage its new wholesale ordering system. And the company recently began its national rollout with the Puget Sound Food Network in Seattle. You're getting around. Local Orbit is on track to launch custom marketplaces in 10 communities around the country this year. And they are gaining national recognition for their work to help scale local food systems, and were invited to participate in the Clinton Global Initiative last year. Congratulations. It's been quite a year. Absolutely, good for you. She was one of 14 social entrepreneurs from around the world selected as a 2011 PopTech Social Innovation Fellow. That's kind of cool. Yeah. She will also be featured in Toyota's upcoming social media campaign featuring 5 innovators talking about sustainability to coincide with the launch of the new plug-in Prius. Our own totally plugged-in Erica. Congratulations on your last year's win. Give this up? You ready to give it up? Well, you had a great year, for sure. All right, what we're going to do is we're going to get a little perspective from the judges on each presenter. So what I'm going to have is each presenter, as they appeared, stand up, and then we can Anybody that has a comment over there, any of the judges? So Chad Stark, if you would, you got to stand up here under the hot light, right there, all right? Look him right in the face. Do the judges have any comments on Chad Stark's presentation?
I think we're going to make, is this mic on?
Your mic is on.
I think we're going to make comments about the group as a whole rather than individual comments and then get to an announcement.
That's fine. Okay. Chad, you're out from under the hot light. Congratulations. No, last year we put him right out there. All right, so listen, any comments on the presentations?
I had a couple of things I wanted to share with everybody. So first of all, thank you to all the entrepreneurs for having the courage to get up here and do this. It's a very difficult thing to do. And no matter how many times you practice it, when you actually get up and do it, it's different than it appeared in your mind. And so, please give a round of applause to these folks. The second comment I want to make is that the format of any of these kind of events is artificial, and they give you categories to fill in. And various of the presenters did better or worse jobs in filling in the individual categories. The thing I most wanted to hear was how you were going to make money and how that was going to make money for your investors. And so I would argue that all the presenters need to think through how to take the story they told in the individual categories and form it into a more cogent one or two sentences that says, this is the problem we're solving, this is how we're going to solve it, this is how we're going to make money with doing it. And that if you limit yourself to the categories that you're given and don't create a narrative across all of them, you may not actually capture that. I didn't hear that from any of the presenters tonight, and so I don't know if any of those presenters has actually given thought to how the investors are going to make money in the company. So those are a couple of general remarks for everybody to consider.
No fighting. No fighting. I would say, I think it was a great job. One of the things, like what John was saying, was too much information, and it loses the real sense of what your business is about. The story has to be front and center, and you have to deliver to your audience or to the investor what is the company about, what is the product, and how are you going to take it to your end customers. And I think a lot of you had a lot of data, a lot of information in that. The other thing that I felt which was lacking was a little bit more concrete assertion of what the market is, really bringing that out, that the market is there, it is ready for adoption, and your product will thrive in that market. So these are my general comments to the group as a whole.
First, I'd like to echo the thanks and for everyone's effort. It was tremendous. I guess my comment is a little more theatrical. They never would have found Cinderella if she didn't leave a slipper. And I didn't notice any of you gave a business card out or had a really striking slogan for what your business was or something memorable. I felt that the presentations were too polite. How can you differentiate yourself from the hundreds of people that come by and make these kinds of pitches? And then when it got to the ask, I heard a lot of things about wanting some money and different things like that, but I didn't hear anyone ask for, what's the next step? Can I call you next week? What time could we meet? What's your phone number? Something that really gets the thing to the next step. So just some general things. And again, those are all negatives or relatively negative, and that doesn't diminish the effort and appreciation for all your...
That's a good comment. Ask for the close. Pete, I know you were napping when the body hit the floor, but that was a little out of the ordinary.
We were told we had to ignore any props or any other things like that.
Thank you. I'm Frank Legacki. I want to just echo and expand on something that Jonathan said, and it reminds me of when I started my career, which was back in ancient history, back in the last century. At that time, advertising was a hot category, not entrepreneurship or investment banking. And I worked for David Ogilvy, who was probably the greatest advertising person of all time. And David said something, he said a lot of things that I've never forgotten, but one thing in particular, and now I tie back into what Jonathan said, is when you're selling grass seed, tell people about their lawns, not your grass seed. And like Jonathan said, what's in it for the investor? What's the payout? And I think you have to tailor your comment and focus on that, your presentation. I think the elevator pitches are very important. We had some companies that I've started and have done well with them. And you really do only get a few minutes sometime to catch someone's attention. So it's not the quantity of what you say, really, it's the quality. So really focusing on what are the key points. A little bit, the first gentleman who really did a lot of homework, and he ran through these things so fast. Man, I thought I was watching or listening to Denard Robinson breaking out from the guy was going so fast, but I sort of missed some of that. So I think being more selective, and again, the ask is important. Phil, you did a very good job. You had a great presence up there, but there was a big hole missing. What was the ask? And so I don't know what you're looking for, and that would not approach investor. But overall, good job, great job, tough assignment, and I think you all did very well.
All right, thank you, judges. I appreciate it. At that side of the stage that donated tonight. Thank you. All right, so now what you've all been tonight is 3D Biometric Laura Schrader.
How's it look? Thank you very much. It's good feedback. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And thanks to all of you for competing. You all did a great job. I'd also, one more time, like to bring Laura Block up, or Erica Block up real quick, because she wants to plug a little something. Erica?
So I just wanted to let you know that one of my recent hires who's sitting in this audience just recently moved back to Michigan, having left actually after AOL, after left Steve Case's old company. And Julie actually found the job through Pure Michigan and the Spark job listings. And I'm really pleased to welcome her back here. So our Chief Technology Officer, Julie Mills.
See, Michigan does get their great people back. We want to thank all of you for being a part of it. Again, judges, thank you for your time and your expertise, and to all of you for your efforts, and continued good luck. Get out there and get that first round of funding, and let's create some jobs. In the meantime, as always, this is one of my favorite nights of the year, and to see all this innovation and this entrepreneurial spirit and enthusiasm, it's so great. Thank you all for coming. Be careful. Make arrangements on your calendar for next year's ACE. In January of next year, we'll see you back here. In the meantime, have a very prosperous year. Thank you.